This is Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel. We also have HARDINTENTIONS.com where we have T-shirts and all kinds of good stuff. So check us out. We just got a new load of beanies in, watch caps, beanies, whatever you want to call them. We got some of those in recently from Louis Max. So check us out. I was talking on live one time about how they used to use basically violence to stop violence in prison. They used to shoot us. And I guess I was fortunate because in San Quentin, they used to use shotguns and mini 14s and 38s. Whereas in Folsom, they use nothing but mini 14. They didn't use shotgun. I think at one time they had a 30-30 also they would use. But, I was watching a show the other day, which I highly recommend. It's a documentary called Attica, and I think it's on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure. It might be on one of them other channels. It's one of them streaming channels. It's just called Attica, and Attica was around early 70s, maximum security, end of the line type prison in New York. The inmates, prisoners took over the prison. And that was during a time when what really struck me was that they were being abused by staff. You have a prison town where everybody in the town, basically, it's like Susanville here in California. Everybody in the town is connected to the prison in one way or another. Somebody works at the prison as a guard or a free staff or medical staff or administrator, or they have a business that sells something to the prison. The whole town was predominantly white. I think it was totally white. All the staff that worked at the prison were white. 70% of the population of the prison were Black, Puerto Rican. I think, maybe 30% were white, So you had guys from the inner city in a prison controlled by guys, white dudes that live in the country. So you had minorities doing time there. White dudes at that time were the majority of the population in the country, I believe, working there, staffing it, running it. And they were abusive, man. I always knew a lot about the riot, the takeover of the prison. I wouldn't even call it a riot. But this gave me a lot of details that I didn't really realize, and especially my wife, she really was blown away by the things. And so they one guy just took up on a cop, and everybody joined in, and it just started. And they got some keys. They took over a section of the prison. They beat one guy half to death, but the staff member and four guys got him and took him out on a gurney, makeshift gurney, because they didn't want him to die. And I thought that was kind of ironic because the staff would go in your cell at night if they had a problem with you and drag you out and sometimes kill you. For sure, beat you down and take you away, and you weren't seen from again for quite a long time. So that was going on a regular basis. Guys were fed garbage. This was in the early 70s when California prisons, they were feeding pretty good. They were feeding them trash, meager issues. It was a dead end prison, they say, basically. And so, good jobs were hard to get. You got treated like an animal. And so they took over the prison and they got a lot of celebrity type people involved, lawyers and senators and politicians. And basically they wanted to be treated like human beings. They wanted decent food, they wanted jobs, they wanted medical care. You could die from lack of medical care, which is something that's still going on in California prison, the prison system. That's why I got out. That's why they had to lower the population of the prison system in California, because of medical. So they wanted medical treatment. So that's still an issue. You're talking 71 till now. You know, they wanted to not get beat by the guards on a regular basis. You know, they wanted to live with a little bit of dignity, you know, and they wanted some rights. Basically, you know, just basic human right to exist, and live out their sentence, whatever it was, without the heavy hand of abusive authority on their neck all the time. And so they took over the prison. And I'm gonna tell you something, for prisoners to cross that line, they know once they cross that line, especially back then, they're in trouble. I mean, they're in big trouble. They knew that, but they did it. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot of abuse to push prisoners to cross that line. You know, like with us, we had a saying, you know, fucking with the cops is bad business. So if you're partying, slinging dope, doing illegal activity, making money on the streets or in prison, you know, you fuck with the cops, it's bad for business. So you do everything you can, like Dirty Dennis used to tell me, you know, you stay clean by being dirty. So you stay out of trouble because you're dirty. You don't want to get in the cop's face because you're dirty. Got a pocket full of dope or money, or you're going to do something, whatever, under the radar, you know. So these guys knew fucking with the cops is bad for business. You know, it was just, but it was a hellhole, man. So they took over the prison. They had Vietnam veterans that were in prison, so they dug latrines. They built little tents, you know, little hooches they call them. You know, they were living on the yard, and they had the head of the prison system in there negotiating, all these activists. They had Bobby Seals, the Black Panther, showed up. They were actually kind of disappointed in him. He stayed like 3 or 4 minutes and left. You know, and so what really got me though was that on the West Coast here in California, they had a lot of the same problems. They called Soledad, Ronald Reagan, our governor at the time, called Soledad the bloodiest square mile in America, because there was a lot of killings. They were killing cops. You know, they were about it. They were tired of it, you know. And so they had, you know, George Jackson was part of that. They called the Soledad Brothers. They were in San Quentin in the adjustment center, which we call animal control. They took it over. They had a gun. They say he tried to escape out of AC, but I don't know where he thought he was going to go from there, because there's nowhere to go. You're not getting out of the prison from the adjustment center. They killed some guards, killed some inmates, so which created a lot of problems between blacks and whites for a long time, because they killed some white inmates, and but they killed some guards. They killed George Jackson. They say he was running across the yard, but the bullet that killed him, they say, went up through the bottom of his foot and into his body. So to me, that sounded like he was laying on the ground, proned out, and they shot him up through his foot, and it went in. A 223 round will travel like that. So they killed George Jackson, but what tripped me out was these guys are in New York. They were aware of what was going on in California. There must have been a movement in all the major states with fucked up prison systems. Civil rights movement was going on. You know, they were aware of the fact that they had killed George Jackson. They had read a lot of his stuff. I've seen a little saying one time of his that said, locked in a jail, within a jail, my mind is still free. And that's, you know, philosophical shit. But they killed him. So these guys in New York knew that they had killed him, and it just fueled their ability, or their resolve to say, you know, fuck this, we had enough. And they took over the prison. They had demands, and the guy who was voicing the demands was going home in like 90 days. And but he was on the microphone saying, this is what we want, this is what's going on. And So, you know, the negotiations kind of got to a standstill, and the governor, Rockefeller, who wanted to be the president, was in communication with Richard Nixon, and he was telling me, you can't capitulate. You can't. They wanted the governor to go to the prison, and he was like, you know, fuck you, I'm not going. He said, you know, what are they going to want next, president? You know, but if he would have went there, it would have, you know, it would have came to a different ending. He was hardline, you know, that's when the tough on crime shit really was just starting to pick up. You know, instead of trying to solve the problems of crime, they just decided to solve it by locking people up that they don't like. Same thing Clinton did with all their anti-terrorist laws and, you know, tough on crime shit, you know, mandatory prison sentences and all that shit for, you know, federal. So in the end, they had the National Guard there. They had hundreds and hundreds of state police and prison guards. They stormed into the prison. You could hear the shots, shotguns. They had guards, hostages, dressed like inmates. And so I think 8 or 9 of them died. But you could hear the shots inside the prison just going on and on and on and on and on. And they were hunting guys down. They were calling out people's names. And the guy who was going home in 90 days, but he wanted to be the spokesman, they killed him. He was dead. They killed quite a few people. I think 28, 38 people died. 8 of them, I think, or 10, 9 or 10 maybe were guards. And a bunch of people were shot, didn't die. A bunch of people were murdered, basically, because they ran in there with rifles and shot them. And so the big trench that was the latrine, once they got in there and they shot a bunch of people, murdered a bunch of people, these guys had no weapons. They said that the guards were killed by inmates, had their throats cut, but it's not true. They were actually shot by the police and the prison guards when they went in there. You see one of them's got a hole in the side of his head, shot by one of his comrades and killed because they went running towards him. Hey, all right, we're rescued. And they shot him because they were dressed in inmate clothing. So they shot their own and killed their own. Then they stripped them all butt naked and they made them crawl on their hands and knees through the latrine. So all the shit and piss that they put in this big ditch, they made them crawl through that, you know, naked. One dude, Big Black, Frank, they call him Big Black, you know, they laid him on a table naked and put a football right here. He's laying on, and they were standing on the catwalk dropping cigars and shit on him. And they told him, if that football moves, we're going to shoot you, motherfucker. You know, fortunately, he lived through it. But it shows you, you know, the level of brutality that people will go to in order to impose their authority upon weaker, less able to defend themselves people. They didn't have to do that. I think if they would have went in there and just fired a couple rounds in the air, then people would have been like, all right, it's over, you know, because it was raining and, you know, but, you know, those guys, they got millions of dollars in court, like 25 years later. It took what people defended them. They got paid. It was brutal, man. I highly encourage you to watch that documentary about Attica. But in California, you know, things, they had more control. I mean, I didn't see the ability to take over a prison like that. You know, you probably could if you wanted to. It'd be kind of hard because of the way the prisons are set up. You'd have to find a flaw in the system. But the thing is, like, they shot us on a daily basis. All San Quentin and Folsom, especially. Granted, there was a lot of stabbings. Almost every day, somebody got stabbed. You would hear the shotguns go off. Sometimes a Mini 14, and in Folsom it was a Mini 14 every day. you would hear shots fired, and then you get the San Quentin newspaper at the end of every week. It would tell you who got shot, what unit, what section of the prison, and why. A fist fight, a stabbing, and it got so bad that before I left to go do a program, the end of '83, the gun rail cop had a shotgun, a Mini 14, and a 38. It used to be one cop had the Mini 14, one cop had the shotgun, but then they both had it. They had a shotgun, a Mini 14, and a 38 on their side. And they would shoot you. The gun rail was probably 20 feet from the tier, and they would shoot you right on the tier. 20 feet away with a 12 gauge shotgun with 7.5 grain birdshot. It's fucked up. And they would shoot you with a Mini 14 too, that close. And there are cells with bullet holes in the walls. There was a guy got shot taking a shit in Folsom. Mini 14 ricocheted off the wall in his cell. Warning shot, supposedly got shot with it. People died all the time from getting shot. So it got to the point where the federal courts intervened. Once again, it takes court action. It takes years and years of abuse. They abuse their authority. And if you say, well, why were there so many stabbings in Folsom and Quentin? Well, on one hand, you got guys that'll kill you. They're trying to enforce some kind of power trip on you, whatever. But on the other hand, if I go out to the yard and I sock somebody in the mouth because I'm mad at them, they're going to shoot me, right? So getting shot for fist fighting led to people stabbing instead of fist fighting. So somebody would go to the yard and stab a guy 3 or 4 times. That was the equivalent of a fist fight, but it got to the point where the federal court said, hey, look, man, California shot more people in the prison system. The guards shot more of it than the whole country combined. I mean, other states and even federal prisons, they didn't do that. They didn't deal with the inmate population like that. They didn't control people through violence like that, through force of violence. If you tried to escape, they might shoot you, whatever, but they didn't shoot you for fighting. They would. So the courts intervened, and towards the end, they got rid of the shotguns and Mini 14s, and they went to 9mm H&K Glazer rounds, and those would hit and explode. They were blowing guys' arms off. They blew a guy, the Hispanic dude, northerner in Folsom, blew his arm off, shot him in the shoulder, shot some black dude in the knee, blew his leg off from the knee down, using exploding rounds. Those things are illegal to use in NATO. Glazer rounds. So it ended up going to, block guns, clubs, tear gas. Now they have they have a rifle looking thing with a big canister of gas. They got the little bottles, and they got specialized clubs and all this shit. They got permission to have clubs with stem on them, but they will still shoot you. But what pissed me off was now guys know they're not going to get shot. So I was on the yard in Lancaster. There was a riot. 120 Southsiders jumped on 11 white dudes, and we got the short end of the stick. But that's when they're supposed to shoot people, right? They didn't shoot nobody. That happened a couple times when I was on that yard. They would just run out there and spray everybody with gas. But see, that's when they're supposed to shoot people. But see, they didn't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck that these dudes are getting fucking beat down, stabbed up, by way outnumbered. They didn't care. They just let it happen. They thought it was comical because now they have a reason to lock the yard down, get overtime pay, all this other shit, strip us out. So, it's a catch-22. I didn't like living under the threat of being shot. I remember one time I was in my cell. I used to fuck with the cops a lot when I was young, the gun rail cops especially. And they just got the red dot laser, sights for their rifles. And and the guy's pointing it at me. I'm in the shower, you know, and I, what the fuck? And I look, and he's pointing that thing at me, and he goes, "Hey, you going to the yard tomorrow?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm gonna kill your fucking ass." I go, "You get your chance, punk." And if, you know, of course he didn't, but you know, it was not cool living under that. But on the other hand, you know, having riots that go on for fucking 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, that's not cool either. It kind of sucks, especially when you're on the short end of the stick, you know. So it was a catch-22. Did I like having rifles pointed at us 24/7? No. But do I like the situation how it is now, what it became? No. But am I grateful I'm out and I survived it? You're damn right. You know, weapons are made to kill, whether you're hunting an animal or you're shooting another person. They're made to kill. And so in prison, they will kill you. The staff will kill you. If they have a hard on for you, they'll kill you. If you do something they don't like, they'll kill you. So, you know, that's something to think about. It's no joke, man. And they got guys in there that don't care. They'll run up on you and stab you in front of God and everybody and take your life. And if they get shot in the process, they don't really mind. You know, they go out with a bang of glory, you know. So, you know, think about that when you're out here in the world and life seems kind of rough. Now think about that. Think about living under the gun, you know, with staff members who control you and everyone around you with the threat of violence and death at the end of a gun, you know, and then you'll start to realize that life out here in the world really probably is not so bad. You guys take care. Thanks for tuning in, and get out there and do it hard, man. Make the most out of your life, and, you know, stay off that route that takes you down that road to prison, because it ain't fucking fun. And if you get a chance, watch that documentary Attica, and we can chat about it on our live on Wednesday night. Get out there and do it hard. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thank you.